Hi guys, welcome to another one of my reviews. As I mentioned in my previous video, there have been quite a few releases this weekend. So the final one I'm getting to is The Old Guard, which was released on Netflix. Covert team of immortal mercenaries are suddenly exposed and now must fight to keep their identity a secret, just as an unexpected new member is discovered. Without further ado though, let's get into the pros. So now for the first half of this movie, I actually enjoyed it a fair bit. I thought it was pretty decent. I know this is an adaptation of a comic book, but they introduced some interesting plots and some interesting concepts about how these characters can't die, they're immortal. They've been alive for many years, which they talk about in this movie. Been alive for a very long time. So overall that just makes for some interesting concepts, but it then makes for some interesting action scenes. And now for me, the action was the best part of this movie. I'm very glad they made this movie rated 15 or R, whatever country you're viewing it in. Without those action scenes, this would have been a very bland movie. In an action scene, you want to see very few cuts, you just want to see it played out, and that's what happens here. It is like raw footage, it isn't uncut. You see Charlize Theron just going at people, stabbing them, shooting them, whatever, blood splattering everywhere, and it just looked great. And I mentioned her just then, Charlize Theron, she was for me the only good acting in this movie. You could really sense that she was this certain character who had all these sets of skills, who had been alive for very long. She seemed very professional, and you could tell that she had been through a lot, which you do find out that she has been with some flashbacks later on in the movie. A lot of that was just in the first half. To find out more of the second half, let's move on to the cons. Yes, and with the second half is around the time that they fully introduced their main villain, Dudley.
How many are there?
36. Counted them myself.
36? But last year I had 37!
Yes, well, some of them are quite a bit bigger than last year.
I don't care how big they are!
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The main villain of this movie was the bully cousin from Harry Potter, Dudley Dursley. It's not like he plays like a full-on like action hero, someone who's out to kill all these people. No, he plays like the cliche head of some company who's trying to extract something from the antagonists, and oh my god, it's not good. I'm not gonna lie, he made a solid bully in the Harry Potter movies when he was a kid, but he is just laughable in this movie. It was a very weird choice to have him as this main villain, but it was their decision. And I mentioned it slightly there, a cliche villain. It's not the only cliche in here, it's full of them, full of cliches for just every action slash superhero movie, which just made some things very predictable. Another thing I mentioned in the pros is that Charlize Theron was the only good acting performance from this movie. So you know what that means? Everyone else is pretty poor. Especially the antagonists, they didn't do a great job in my opinion. It's not that they didn't suit the role, I just couldn't buy them as actually in characters at all. I didn't rate their acting too much. You know, it's nothing personal, just I found their acting pretty poor. And that even goes for some established actors who've been in other things great before. On top of that poor acting and the cliches, the dialogue is very standard, poor, and I guess basic. It's pretty much, if you're given full knowledge of what this movie is, you can predict every line that is going to happen. It's that basic. Once again, it just lets this movie down. And the antagonists, or the main characters in this so-called group, they're very uninteresting. I didn't really care about them too much at all. I didn't find them likable. Not because they did anything that I didn't like, it's just they didn't do anything, in my opinion. They had some cool action scenes, but they didn't seem to do much at all. They just seemed to wait orders from Charlize Theron's character. They just were in the background for me. But the most infuriating thing about this movie for me is it stands out like a sore thumb was the music choice. A lot of these songs that they have in this have lyrics in them which you don't really need in whether it's an action scene or just whenever, but you see this cool action scene and it's ruined by some electro pop which doesn't fit with it at all. In pretty much all movies you have instrumental as your soundtrack, whether that's in a fight scene, an emotional scene, but no, electro pop with some lyrics over the top just tops off a very poor movie in my opinion. I'm not very aware of how accurate it is to the comics. I don't really have any knowledge of the actual comics, but in terms of a film, this is a very poor film. in my opinion. I know many people have enjoyed it because it's just straight up action, but I didn't enjoy this movie. And for that I say you can skip this one, you don't have to go see it. I don't understand why it's getting so many watches on Netflix. I think it just broke a record for something like most stream in a certain amount of time on Netflix. I'm not sure, I could be wrong about that. I feel like I heard that somewhere, but for me it's a very standard movie. It's on par with Bloodshot for me, which, calling back, I had a fonder memory watching that than this. For me, The Old Guard gets a 5 out of 10 from me, and as I said, you can skip it unless you're a fan of the comics, or you can get past a few cliches just to watch some cool action. But anyway, thank you for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please chuck a like down below, and if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate a subscription. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of The Old Guard and also how I can improve my videos. But yes, anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll hope to see you in my next video.